This week on Round 2 podcast, I was joined in studio by Valeria Brenner. She is the youngest entrepreneur that I have ever had on the show, and she has started a very cool business called Thryft. We met in Techstars, and I was instantly impressed with her business acumen, with all that she had accomplished at such a young age. She was still in college while we were going through the program, and she actually graduated right at the very end of the program. So it was a real treat to sit down and talk with her and learn about all that's changed with Thryft. That is a mouthful, with Thryft since I last saw her, and to also learn about all that is to come for Thryft. If you are a business that sells through Instagram, you need to check out her website, thryftship.com, and enjoy our conversation that is coming up next. As always, please subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think. I really appreciate the follows and the listens and the views. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the episode. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and I have another one of my Techstars friends and alumni here with me today. I thought her business was so cool the first time I heard about it, so I am so excited that she is here to talk about it and share it all with you. Valeria Brenner, welcome to the Round 2 podcast.
Hello. Lovely to be here, Nikki.
Yes. So I have to tell you, I've never told you this before, but we actually, on our very first day of Techstars, it was when we were doing the remote, like what they called like the pre-program, right? Mm-hmm. And at the very end of that first day, remember they put us in those little breakout rooms for like 1 minute and you got to talk to people.
So you were the first person.
Yes, you were the first person I talked to. And I can't remember what exactly I said, but I remember I said something that was talking about something from when like I was your age. And you were like, oh my gosh, totally. And I remember we got out of that room and I started laughing and I was like, I think I'm like twice her age. Like, how would she be able to relate to something that happened when I was her age? And I just thought it was so cute. And then as I got to know you, I was like, man, this girl is so sharp. You have experienced and accomplished some things at such a young age from a business and entrepreneurship perspective that is just so impressive. So I'm really excited for you to tell people all about Thryft and how you guys are changing the game for small businesses.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thanks. What should I?
Tell everyone what is Thryft and how you got there. I obviously know, but I think the origin of what you guys are doing is important.
I think, kind of explaining how the business began also kind of explains who we cater to. So we'll take it back to high school for me. I was 17 and I had some friends that were running a reselling account on Instagram. And so what this means is originally they would just pull clothes from their closet that they no longer wore. They would take pictures in these clothes, upload it to their to this Instagram account, and then people would just comment to like purchase the item or even bid on it if there was a starting price. And that worked out well for them. They sold everything that they wanted to in their closet, and they kind of got addicted to that spirit and then just started going to thrift stores and sourcing inventory from thrift stores, styling it, upcycling it, making it cute, taking pictures. And from there, like their Instagram account started growing. And these were close friends of mine. And around that time, I also had a bunch of clothes I wanted to get rid of. And so I asked them like, hey, would you mind like selling some of these things for me? And they were like, you know what, we'll do you one better. Like, here's the login to that Instagram account. Just start posting on it. So I remember her name was Annie. Annie like walked me through the whole process, like how to style the pictures, how to edit the lighting, like how the comments kind of flowed in terms of like giving the size, giving the item description. If you're doing bids, like making sure to specify like what the starting bid is, what the bin price is, or buy it now. So if you want to skip the bidding process, like leaving the bid cycle open for X amount of hours, and then basically just like updating customers with like who is in the lead as things progress. And so they kind of walked me through that, and I started then also going to the thrift stores and like joining this account with them, and it scaled up pretty quickly. In about like 5 months we had around 22,000 followers, and at that point we all decided to kind of go our separate ways and start our own accounts. So then I created my own thrifting account, and it was called Kickin' Thrifts. And also within like 3 months, I'd scaled it from like 0 to 7,000 accounts, and I was selling like around 30, 40 pieces of clothing a week. And it was super,
Oh my
super fun,
gosh.
super cool, and
Yeah.
easy because it was all on Instagram. So everyone was already on the app. Everyone knew how to use it. You didn't have to, take any processing fees off of the transaction. Everything was handled through Venmo. But the downside to it is the entire thing was done manually. So whenever someone like wins a bid or a bin or like buys something, you take that conversation with the customer into Instagram's DMs or direct messages, and you just start chatting with them like, oh my God, you won the bid. Like, here's your total. Shipping is going to be around like $8. Like usually you do like a flat price, or some people calculate it specifically. Here's my Venmo or my PayPal. They send the payment, and then the customer sends you their address. And that's great. That's easy. But I guess when sales start piling up, it became like this very tedious task because I'd have 30 to 40 orders every single week I needed to ship out, and no organizational system. So I would just spend hours like scrolling through my phone on DMs, trying to find each customer, and then like typing their addresses line by line into a shipping website so I could purchase and print out shipping labels. I think originally I used PayPal, and then like Annie introduced me to a different site called Pirate Ship, which gives you like cheaper USPS prices. So it's cheaper to go to the post office, but it didn't do anything to alleviate that manual process. Like I was still having to type everything in line by line. And so it would take around 2 hours for every 10 packages. And it was just this like nightmare scenario. I didn't like it whatsoever. And at this point I had like graduated high school, and I was in my first semester of college. And I think I kept doing this pretty much through sophomore year. So I want to say like 19 at the time. And one of my friends had gone through this idea accelerator program at my university. So I went to UGA, and it was this like 4-week jobs to be done process, essentially, where anyone who enters gets in with their business idea, and it's 4 weeks of just trying to validate that the problem or pain point you've identified exists, and kind of trying to create a solution to that pain point around that validation process. And so every week you had to interview at least 10 people. The interviews had to be at least 15 minutes long, and you had to kind of like progress in your findings. And it was like a self-elimination process. So everybody makes it in, but then little by little, people who don't complete the interviews, they drop out, or people who are like feel stuck, they drop out. And then by the end of the 4 weeks, you go from like 40 to about like 4 or 5 different teams. And she had like gone through this process, and she had won it. And it was really cool to see, like, she had won this, like, I think it was $2,500 to kind of invest into her business. And she had also made a, like, crap ton of friends throughout the process. And this was during COVID era. So, like, I hadn't made, like, my proper group of friends yet. And this seemed like a really good way to meet people. And anybody who tries it, like, makes it in. And so I, like, joined on a whim with my thrifting business with, like, the intent of making friends. Like, it wasn't actually to, like, go through the process. I was like, yeah, like, I'll do that. But, like, great. Like, the longer I stay in it, like, the more conversations I can have. Hopefully, like, the more people I can meet. And so, for me, it was, like, a friend opportunity. And as a result, I didn't really, like, I wasn't super attached to my business idea, which is a problem a lot of people have when they go through that process. Like, they have this idea, they think it's great. Then they start interviewing people, and they hear different opinions or different thoughts on what the pain point is, and like that doesn't quite align with like the solution or the business that they have like thought out, and they kind of get stuck. But with me,
because they have that emotional connection that they don't want to let it go.
Yeah, like it becomes your baby, and it's really hard to like shift your mind from that. And this is kind of like my hypothesis on like why I did so well in that program is like I wasn't thinking about the business, I was thinking about making friends. And so every week, like my business idea would transform based off these conversations I had with people. First, like because I joined them with my thrifting account, I was just interviewing my customers, and they were like, I love what you're doing, your outfits that you pick are so cute, like keep it up. And I was like, great, like that's boring, like let me talk to somebody else, because I was like, I wasn't learning anything from it. And so on a whim, I started talking to other thrifting accounts in the reselling community on Instagram, and that's where I started figuring out that shipping, which was this big pain point for me, was also a pain point for all of these
everybody.
People. Everybody, everyone I talked to had like come up with their own way to make shipping the fastest. So like one woman, and she goes, every single time I sell something, I immediately like purchase that shipping label. And another woman was like, okay, I have everything in like neat stacks, and then I'll like go down the line. And like they all like came up with their own idea, but every single person I talked to, regardless of what it was and what their process was, it always took around 2 hours for every 10 packages.
Yeah.
And so at that point I kind of realized like, oh, this is a pain point. I'm experiencing it. Other people are experiencing it. And while I'd always thought like this is the way it has to be, like there's no other alternative, because of like these interviews, my mindset started shifting towards like, maybe there is a different way to be doing this. Maybe it doesn't have to be this big pain in the butt kind of process. And that's how Thryftship came to be. I guess, long story short, Thryftship is a shipping website made for Instagram resellers, and we're kind of in the process of transforming now from not just a shipping platform, but also being like inventory management and order fulfillment. So basically letting it be like the back end or the backbone of your business if you're a reseller, because you don't, did it cut out?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, basically you don't have any kind of resources or organizational system when you're running through Instagram, because it's not a formal selling platform. And so we want to become that like that back end portion of it that keeps track of all of your sales and inventory. Yeah.
I love that. Look, you guys keep evolving.
Always moving forward, always trying to better serve our customers. It's been quite a ride so far.
No, that's so great. So, I mean, one of the things that I thought was so neat about you is that you had, you've done these different accelerators, you've gone to pitch, competitions, and not only have you done these things, you've won, so I was thinking about this conversation that we were going to have, and thinking about how, for some of us, standing up in front of a room and presenting a slide deck to our peers and our boss can be daunting. But then to go and stand up in front of a room of investors and people who are there, who have written checks for numerous other businesses, successful businesses, especially, and then to stand up there and confidently say, like, here's my business, here's why I want your money, here's what I think I'm going to do with it, here's why you should put your money, like, give your money to me. That takes some gumption. And you've done that. I mean, how many times have you pitched now, do you think?
Probably, I don't even know. Honestly, I've lost count. I want to say like at least 20 different events.
That's
something
awesome.
Like that. Yeah.
And so when you win and when you've got, different investors who have decided to back you, what has that process been like as a young entrepreneur?
It was definitely not a like right out the bat like doing well. Like I did win like that idea accelerator, but that's because everyone was in the same boat as me, as like just starting out. And when I look back and I see the pitch I did then, to me it's atrocious. I was like, oh my God, like why did they pick me for any of this? Like I was like stuttering, there was no clear vision. I was like stumbling over my own words. And from there, like the more pitches I did, the better I realized like how to structure a pitch and how to successfully communicate my idea to a group of investors, because Instagram reselling to my generation, to my like niche and age, seems so straightforward. I'm like, yeah, of course, like, everybody knows what this is. But then I started going to these pitch competitions, and I remember the first few were like a real wake-up call, because a lot of these judges and investors were like older men and older women who don't really have Instagram or use Instagram. And there was this complete misalignment of like, when I was explaining the idea, I just jump over the portion of how it works. And that's where I lost them almost immediately, where they're like, okay, you're explaining a business, I'm seeing some traction here, but like, what do you do again? Like, that kind of was the issue. And so I think through that process, like I've very much learned like how at least to communicate my business, and how also to clearly communicate, I guess, each portion of a pitch, because it has to flow, it has to guide them through a story. And I think like storytelling is a big part of this. Is like, if you're not excited and like able to communicate it clearly, like how can you expect anybody else to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. And that's super smart, because if you're losing people in your first, couple minutes, like you got to figure that out, or else you're never going to get people to understand what's going on.
It's game over pretty much before it's even begun.
Well, and I think that it's such an interesting world we're at too, right? Like I saw something the other day where it said that, this is like I think it's my generation or the millennial generation is like the last one that will ever know what it was like to like not have a smartphone. And to think that like that's where we are. And so we do have these gaps where there's this technology gap and this like, just way of living, and how life works for your generation is even different than from my generation. I mean, I didn't have my first cell phone until I was 20 years old. And it's not that they didn't exist. It's just, it wasn't a thing that like everybody had. And then it was like, I was a senior in college and I was like, oh, like I'm going to get a cell phone, and it was like this big brick and it did nothing except make calls that were very expensive if you went over your minutes. So yeah, so I can see how you would have to, but I mean, good on you for acknowledging that and understanding like, hey, this is where I'm losing people and this is why.
No, it took a couple of tries, but then the really nice thing about these like pitch competitions is with or without winning any kind of prize money, you learn so much from them, especially from A, the feedback you get, but then B, the experience itself. Like the kind of questions I got asked ended up clarifying to me a lot on like where I needed to improve my pitch. If I'm noticing that this question gets asked over and over again, like there's something that I'm not explaining clearly. And yeah, like that to me was almost like better than, I don't know, like than winning or not winning the pitch. Is like I'd walk away regardless and I'd always be like, okay, like cool, like I'm going to change this next time. And then I, tweak it a little bit, and then I noticed like that question disappeared from that like question box that I typically had.
Yeah. Oh, that's really neat. So here's a question for you. You mentioned when you were first, when you went to that very first competition that you had gone into it because you wanted to make friends. So now that you're years removed from that, what does your kind of peer group or friend group look like? Do you have a lot of friends who are also entrepreneurs as a result of that? Or is it kind of a mixed bag?
It is a mixed bag. Like I'd say all of my closest friends, like, don't exactly know what I do, which like I've explained and they're like, yeah, shipping, or yeah, Instagram clothes, and I'm like, yeah, like that's good, that's close enough.
Yeah,
but I do
like,
have
okay.
I do have like a nice subset of friends who are in the startup world, and they're so lovely to reach out to and to talk with and to catch up with because they get it. Like they're in that same world, that same bubble, and there's just parts of the business that like doesn't communicate well to people who just haven't like gone through the startup experience. So definitely like one of my closest like startup friends, UGA has like a really lovely powerhouse of women entrepreneurs.
Oh, cool.
And so my closest like entrepreneurship friend is Kristen Dunning. She was on Shark Tank recently, and she has a brand called Gently Soap, which is soap specifically made for people with sensitive skin. She suffered from eczema, and she had come up with her own proprietary way of infusing like scents and like lovely color into her soaps without making it an irritant to like sensitive skin. Anytime if you've like walked through the CVS aisle and you've like looked down at any kind of like eczema friendly skin soap, it's always like a bland, boring bar, and it always smells either like nothing or kind of chemically. And so that's like her spiel. And so she's someone I look up to a lot, and also someone I keep in touch with a lot because she's gone through a different Techstars accelerator program. And so like when I was applying to Techstars, I was like, hey, like how was that for you? And I got to like hear like her insider scoop on it. And she's also someone who just like, as a minority woman in entrepreneurship and in the startup world, like there's a lot of just like really nice, I guess, communication that we can have around that. Like, talk to this guy at that event. Yeah, he was weird. Or like, did you like experience this and this? Like, I don't know. It's nice to have someone who gets it on like multiple different levels. And then she's one of those people for me.
No, that's wonderful. That's really great. Yeah, I was wondering that about like your peers and your friend group and kind of like what different people are doing. And I mean, I think it's so common in entrepreneurship for people who either don't have other entrepreneurs in their life or who have just gone a more traditional path to just kind of be like, yeah, I kind of know what you're doing, but okay, like, you seem happy and you're having fun and we can still do fun things together. So good job.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of nice, like, to have a friend group where, like, you don't really talk about business with.
Yeah.
But then it does get frustrating when you want to talk business or, like, not necessarily the right people to talk it with. But then that's what, like, different friend groups are for. Like, you figure out, like, your strengths with each person and interpersonal relationship you have.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
definitely.
nice.
Definitely. So I remember at the end of Techstars, you guys were just about to launch Thriftship 2.0. So I know that happened. How have things changed since then?
It's been good. Everything's moving a lot quicker than it used to, which is just so, so nice. For me,
Uh-huh.
I guess for context, I ran the business myself,
Mm-hmm.
I guess sophomore year of high school, or not high school, sorry, college, all the way through, like I was doing a master's program at UGA and I graduated in May. And
Uh-huh.
so January of this year, about like 3.5 years into like running this business, I finally got a co-founder, and that's Max.
Yeah.
He's our CTO. And so up until that point, I'd just been working with developers on a contractual basis, trying to keep the site
Mm-hmm.
up and running. And it'd become this like really precarious deck of cards. Because like when a bunch of
Uh-huh.
people, different people and different coding styles get mixed into like one product, everything on the
Yeah.
back end is like very rickety. Like one tweak here could affect something way up here that is like completely unrelated, but like somebody else, had made them.
Uh-huh.
It was really, really nice when he came on board to have someone else who like got the business itself, not just entrepreneurship, and was invested, and then two, like wanted to completely rebuild the site and give it like a fresh start with like a
Uh-huh.
future facing vision. So
Yeah.
not just saying we're going to build this now. It's like, okay, but if we build this now, like the vision is to kind of go this direction. Okay, I'll make sure to like build it in a way that like can accommodate that and will work well with that.
Uh-huh.
Um, but essentially, 2.0 was really, really great because Max had spent basically February through July working on rebuilding the entire site. And we're working with like a front
Dang.
end developer to rebuild the
Uh-huh.
entire site. And up until that point, like I was just kind of here, like twiddling my thumbs. It's not like I could run a lot of like technologically based experiments with our customer base. It was more
Uh-huh.
just so trying different messaging strategies and different marketing tools, but like making sure not to put too much money into it because like we had a
Mm-hmm.
leaky bucket, meaning like customers were coming in but then also falling out or like not
Oh.
completing,
Okay.
not completing the like customer cycle, meaning they like made an account but then didn't finish onboarding. And so like there was a bunch of different spaces and
Mm-hmm.
leaks in our like customer acquisition funnel and in our customer retention funnel that
Mm-hmm.
like I couldn't address technologically. Like I just had
Got
to like
it.
experiment with
Uh-huh.
messaging strategies. And so it felt like I was just kind of like stuck there, twiddling my thumbs, trying different things, but like not being able to try too many different things. Cause like, if I put $1,000 into marketing spend, it's all gonna just fall right through. So like
Okay.
everything was like just sitting and waiting and sitting and
Mm-hmm.
waiting and like trying things and like just waiting. But then finally with the new site being launched, if I want to try a new email thing, great, Max can like build it out. If I want to like
Oh,
try
awesome.
tweaking the messaging here, Max can like do that in an instant. And he
Okay.
also like is coming up with ideas and like really invested in like trying to make the company succeed. So it's really, really
Yes.
nice for not to just be me, and then
Uh-huh.
B, like for it to just be moving so much quicker. Like yesterday we launched Canada and Australia shipping, which was exciting. So
Awesome.
like
That's
US
huge.
yeah, US sellers can now ship not globally, but like to Canada and Australia, as well as
Sure.
like any like US state or territory or military
Yeah.
base. Like
Oh, that's
yeah.
so great. I mean, I know Canada is huge. I mean, I follow a couple of podcasts who do merch launches occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I know they ship to Canada now, but at the beginning they didn't. And they had all these Canadian followers who were like, oh, we want stuff too. And it's just right
Mm-hmm.
over the border. Like, why can't we ship here?
Yeah.
So that's so
That's what
great.
it was an idea that came like we wanted to do it, but it was going to be way down on our product line. There were so many things we wanted to try first, but then one of our like top customers had revealed to us that she loves using us so much that she uses us for all of her US orders, but she has a decent chunk that are mainly to Canada and Australia. And she
Oh,
was like, I hate it, but I have to like split up my orders like between you guys and somewhere else. But I was like, like thank you. You still want
yeah.
to keep using us even though like we're difficult, I guess, to use, and then B, like let's like get on that for you. And so that's kind of what
Yeah.
like drove that, and it ended up like being validated that other customers that we had, that were like bigger accounts, also had that same issue where they were using us
Oh,
because they enjoyed our
cool.
product so much, but we weren't
Hmm.
servicing them, in all aspects of like
Hmm.
shipping to different customers in different places.
That's so great.
Mm.
I think that's Awesome. I mean, and it's funny too. One of my early guests in this like entrepreneurship series, she has multiple small businesses. And, you know, when I asked her like, hey, what would your advice be to somebody? And she was like, just go and just start and just do it. Because once you get going and once you put it out there, your customers will then tell you like what it is that they need and what it is that they want. So it sounds like you just completely experienced that and then went and made it happen.
Yeah, like our entire roadmap has changed about like 25 to 50 different times just in each conversation we have, and like trying to figure out like who's not that some customers' opinions don't matter, of course, but like who's, you know, represents the whole. Like we've noticed that like our customers who are shipping on average like 30 or more packages a month, like those are the ones whose voices we want to listen to, because like their needs trickle down to the needs of like smaller customers, and so focusing on their needs first like helps everybody. But yeah, that's it's been an interesting process trying to figure out like how to prioritize, I guess, new features.
Oh my gosh, I bet. I mean, yeah, because when you have everybody telling you what it is that they want, and you're kind of like, okay, which ones are we hearing a lot? Like how hard are these to do? I always found that sometimes something that sounds like the easiest to do is actually the hardest from a back end perspective. And you're like, no, we really want to do that, but it's going to take like 4 months of dev work. And that's a lot.
Yeah. I think Max has been really great in that avenue, because like my biggest, like, I guess, vice or fault is like anybody says anything to me, I'm like, the world is ending. Oh my God, like how can I not? Like how did I forget to add this feature? And Max is like, calm down. This is like someone who ships out 5 packages a month. Like you don't necessarily have to like cater towards them right away. This is something we can look into. And like he just is kind of that voice of reason when I'm having those like ups and downs and mental spikes. So I'm the one that does all the customer service. And so everything hits me first and hits me like the most directly. And so, just having him there to kind of like slap me like back into like focus mode is super, super handy. Yeah.
Well, that is funny too, because I also think that sometimes the people that are the most vocal are not your biggest customers. Yes. And so you're kind of have to like take everything in, but also place some weighted value on the feedback that you're receiving and see, okay, what makes the most sense for us right now.
That took a while for me to kind of fully grasp, but very, very true.
Yeah. So what is it so now here's a question, because you did start on this entrepreneurship path at such a young age. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or did you just kind of happen to fall into it because you hated the shipping process that you were using?
It was a complete accident. I will say like my mom has like there's no like formal entrepreneurship like in my family. My mom has always been like a super creative mind and a super like productive and like goal driven, initiative setting kind of individual, and she does have her own like web design business. So she is an entrepreneur, but it's never been like startup world kind of entrepreneurship, and so that was new and novel to me. But my dad has always been like dreaming of doing a startup, and it's one of those things that he just never quite like went and like did. And so, you know, in some families, like somebody really wants a doctor, or like everyone's really pushing for a lawyer. My dad is always like, start your own business, someone do it. And we all be like, yeah, sure. And then when Thryft happened, he was like giddy as can be, super proud and excited.
That's so cute.
And my mom as well has been like one of my biggest supporters. She was my first investor. She believed in me. She believed in the product, and she went above and beyond like what a typical investor would do. I remember my mom didn't want me to miss out on any kind of college experiences. And so I studied abroad for a semester in Vienna, in Austria.
Oh my gosh, I just went to Vienna last month.
My favorite place in the world. But as a result, there's a time difference of 6 hours for customer service. And my mom was like, no problem. I'll help you with it. Like, you can do it between these and these hours, and I'll do it between these and these hours. And so I'd wake up sometimes in the morning, and I had like made this whole handbook for my mom in the way that like resellers communicate. It's a lot of like heart emojis, exclamation points, very upbeat, very like, oh my gosh, of course I can help you. And very not my mom. My mom is like, period. Like, this is great, period. Like, you know, very like good punctuation, good grammar. And I'd wake up and I'd see these DMs of like, no problem, girlie. So happy to help you. Like, get these labels, like heart emoji, heart emoji. And I was like, just great memories like that
That
surrounding
is
the
so
business.
cute. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I do actually remember I don't know what we were doing at Techstars one day, but you literally, the day you graduated, there was all this chatter in some chat. And then all of a sudden you're like, BRB, going to graduate. And we were like, wait, what? You're graduating from college today? Like, okay.
It's because we had that financial modeling class,
Oh,
like the mini one, and I was so interested in it. I was like getting ready, and I had the camera off, and then he was like, "I needed a volunteer," and I was like, "Wait!" So I like put the camera back on, and I was like, "Hey,
I remember that. Yes.
And so literally right after that call ended, I like got up, I like put on my shoes, I like put on my little robe, and then my parents picked me up, and we drove to like the little venue where they were hosting like the master's graduation ceremony.
That's so awesome.
That was a silly day. For sure.
That's so great. I love it. So, okay. So you kind of just fell into entrepreneurship, but obviously have a super duper supportive family who just wants you to succeed and wants the best for you. So as you are now, let's see, what do you do? You just turned 23?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So say you're what, 7 years into this? What is something that when you were very first starting out, what is something that you know now that you wish you would have known then?
Oh, there's like so many things that's going through my mind right now. But I think the main one is just like, there's so many steps I wish I could have skipped, knowing what I know now, like about like product building, about like customer discovery interviews and listening to your customer. Like even that's how I started Thryft. Like after that first initial set, you're like, great, I did it. I know what the problem is. Like, let me just build it out. And you kind of stop talking to customers. And then like, you keep having to come back to it. And like, I had to relearn that lesson a couple of times before like it really set in. Like that's the best way to build it. That'd be one thing is like customer first. Like if you want to like build revenue, focus on the customer and like revenue will come. And then the second thing would be like, finding a co-founder earlier on. It's one of those like shoulda, woulda, coulda, and I think about this a lot, especially when I see like competitive like businesses coming up in the Instagram reselling space, because like we were one of the first out in this space, and I'm like, oh, like if only I had gotten to like all these steps quicker and sooner, like I would have been doing so much better. Like we would have made our name for ourselves, like already like much like bigger in the space itself. But I would say like if I had done all that stuff earlier, like I wouldn't have met Max. It wouldn't be the team it would be today, and like I wouldn't have learned or gone through all of these things that like I have already. So there's like nothing I would change, but I guess in terms of things I would do differently, it's like I guess just like understand my customer better and like focus on them better, and then also like I did a minor in computer science after I started the business because I was like, maybe I can code it myself.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
I guess like I would have taken that a little bit earlier because I did initially like when hiring these like contract developers, like I had no idea what I was doing, and I did get myself in some sticky situations where I was like left high and dry or my money was taken because like there were clear and obvious things that like after I took those classes and after I had those connections built out that I knew to look out for. That I didn't beforehand. So just like doing things a little earlier is kind of a lot of that is the pattern I seem to have in terms of wishes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that totally makes sense. And it's unfortunate too that like we are in this era, I'm a member of some different like podcast groups on Facebook, and people, ask a lot of questions and people share a ton of great information. So it's been so valuable for me to just kind of be sitting on the sidelines, watching and reading and taking note. But I have noticed as of late, some people will post a question and then they'll say like, I don't want you to offer me any of your services because there's all these different like freelance people that are also on like Fiverr and Upwork. And I'm not discounting those sites because I have had great experiences using those sites, but I know that you have to like do your research in there because there are people who just will be like, oh, I'm an expert and I can do this and all these things for you. Like I get emails all the time about my YouTube channel. Like, oh, I can optimize your SEO. I'm like, my SEO is optimized. It's just my channel is very new, So I'm like, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but like my channel is optimized. So I totally, understand how tough it can be when like, I don't know anything about SEO. I'm learning it now, but I mean, even the guy that I hired to help, I was like, praying that I was getting someone good. And thankfully I did. But yeah, it's definitely tough.
I think at that point, though, connections also are extremely valuable. Like that's something I wish I had from the beginning is like, obviously you have to build that network out. But if I had a lot of these like key members of my network that I do like that I have now back then, I think I also would have like jumped over and avoided a lot of these like little problems that I experienced and big problems that I experienced just due to their expertise and their advice and the amount just I have learned from what they've told me and what they've like shared with me.
Yeah. I mean, there is nothing like having a good network of people to bounce ideas off of. I mean, sometimes I look at the people that are in my network and the people that will accept my phone call and give me, 10, 15 minutes of their time. And I'm just like, really? Thank you.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
This is amazing. Like, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm like, this is the best. So at this point, with all that you have done, do you have young entrepreneurs or maybe not necessarily all young since you are still young, but aspiring entrepreneurs reaching out to you for advice?
I do, and it's very bizarre. I don't know what to do with myself. There's this one organization called which they have a chapter in Atlanta, and I participated in some stuff when I was like in the collegiate level, so like in my undergrad. And they connected me with like a high school group that like wanted to build out this little website. And it's interesting like talking to them and seeing like how different their mindset is and like how similar it was to what I had when I first started my business. And I like almost want to take it from them. I'm like, no, like you're on to something. But, like, don't go this way. Like, stop looking at the solution. Stop trying to build out these features. Like, talk to people. Have you talked to anybody? Like, have you talked to the customer? And things like that. So that is like really cute and comforting when they reach out to me and they're like, oh my God, like, can we set up another meeting with you in like 2 weeks and like share what we found? And I was like, yes, but it's really weird because normally I'm the person doing that to like my mentors. And so that's really bizarre. And then recently too, like one of my neighbors growing up, he is like my sister's age. He's 2-3 years older than me. And he reached out because he had a business idea and he's like, I know you've gone through all these things and you're pretty well connected in the startup world. Can I talk to you about it? And I was like, yeah, of course. And like, I remember towards the end of the call, we also talked about like setting up another meeting in a few weeks. And he's like, yeah, you're like my mentor now. And I was like, don't say that. Like, you're older than me. Like, you're like my older brother, basically. Like, what do you mean I'm your mentor? So yeah, it's very cool, very flattering, but then also very bizarre. Like, I don't quite know what to do with myself. Like, we'll have the meeting. I'll give my advice. Like, I'll give my insight, and I'll give like the resources that I was shared, like the people shared with me, and I'll pass them along. And then it feels awesome to like get to be able to like guide people in that way and like feel like, okay, like I know what I'm talking about. Like, this is like reaffirming and this is reassuring that like I can share this information and communicate it clearly to someone. But then, on like the back end, on like the flip side of that, I'm like, but there's so much I don't know. Like, really? Like me? Like, I'm the person you want to talk to about this? So that's, both cool and weird.
Yeah, well, I think that's awesome. And, spoiler alert for what comes next. Like, I used to think that like once I turned 30, I was going to like feel a certain way. And I was like, I'm going to feel like I'm an adult and I'm going to feel all these things. And trust me, you don't. You're going to feel exactly the same. You're just going to have years more experience behind you and more advice to give. And you'll be a more confident, successful version of yourself. So just, own it. Love it. Keep doing it. It's great. So, all right. So tell me about like, what is your vision for Thryftship in the next, say, 2-3 years?
2-3 years. We got some big plans in terms of like really building out on that like future vision of inventory management and like order fulfillment. Like there's so much more that we can do than just shipping, than just like printing out shipping labels for people. And I don't think I've talked about quite how the product works, but like long story short, rather than having to like copy the address from DMs, have an official shipping form that you can either put in your bio or send to customers directly through the chat so they can securely fill out their shipping information. And we also automate email like tracking information, emailing the tracking information to people. And so like that was like the first step, the first iteration. And then we released the 2.0, which was like still basically all that same key functionality, but with a really clean and new UI UX design. So it's a lot easier and less clunky because I designed the first website myself. and I am in no way like authorized to have done so. Like the flow of the website was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And so it's like entirely new, but now we're building onto these things. And so in the future, what we really want to do is automate not just the shipping process, but also the entire order fulfillment process. So being able to like, not have to worry about posting things on Instagram. Like if you just upload the pictures to Thryft, like we can post those on your behalf. We can use Instagram's API to like track the comments and see what the bid is at, what the bin is at. We can automate like from your account sending, hey, like whatever customer, like you won the bid. Here's a checkout portal. Like here's like the Venmo information. Here's the entire like thing of like basically being able to still run your business on Instagram, but without all of this added manual work. And so like our goal for the next 2 to 3 years is like to very slowly, step by step, is kind of move backwards, from like backwards to forwards in like the entire selling process on Instagram to like just eliminating these manual processes. So it starts with shipping, and then kind of the next step is like keeping track of inventory. Then the next step is like keeping track of like the bids themselves. And the next step is like, doing the checkout process itself and like automating sales and things like that. And then what we've noticed too is that cross-listing is a huge thing on this platform. So people on Instagram also really tend to sell on.
Oh, okay.
And so also automating that cross-listing aspect of it is kind of on our future roadmap. So if you post on Instagram, we can also, boom, put it on all the other sites that you want to post on. And when it sells in one of these places, we'll take it off everywhere else. You don't have to worry about accidentally selling the same thing twice, because there's also like a manual process a lot of people worry about. While there are solutions, there's no one really focused on like the Instagram reselling community for this. And so that's kind of where we wanted to differentiate ourselves, is like being Instagram first and supporting the Instagram sellers to expand to other places, to really grow and scale their business, and to not be like held back by the manual process of selling on Instagram and like just the fact that they're a one-person team typically.
Okay. Well, gosh, I love it. Actually, I have somebody that I want to connect you to. I'll send you an email after the fact. I think that you guys would have a great conversation with both of your experiences and what you're doing. This was so cool. I love hearing about what you're doing. I think you are such an impressive young lady, and I'm so excited to see where you guys continue to take Thryft. So let everybody know where they can find you, how they can get in touch.
Yeah, so you can reach out to us on Instagram at thryftship.com, or sorry, just Thryftship, THRYFTSHIP. It's like Thryftship, but we spell it with the Y because we want to be quirky. Thryft is spelled weird, ship is spelled normally. Also, www.thryftship.com is where you can reach us. And of course, my name, Valeria, at thryftship.com is where you can email. Pretty much any of these places. Reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. Just want to say hi, need some shipping advice, like we got you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was great chatting with you. And everybody, thank you so much for listening, watching. As always, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, all the things. And thank you for being a listener of the Round 2 podcast. And we will see you next week. Bye.